Welcome to Speed Data, quick conversations with cybersecurity leaders. I'm your host, Megan Garza. Today's guest is Mark Bruns, Chief Information Security Officer for FirstBank. Welcome, Mark.
Great to be here from almost ready to be cold and frigid Nashville.
Mark has an impressive background of more than 25 years in information technology. Before his role at FirstBank, Mark worked at industry leaders Deloitte and Gulfstream Aerospace and was the information technology manager for the United States Marine Corps. Mark is currently a board member of the Cyber Risk Institute and is well-versed in PCI, HIPAA, and DoD security compliance. Mark, as the CISO for a large financial institute, what advice can you give security leaders on getting buy-in from the C-suite and board members on the importance of cybersecurity?
Ironically, I just was asked that same question by my boss, who's the chief risk officer, yesterday, and want me to talk about it. One of the biggest things I've always believed in is simplify. We've made the topic, in my mind, way too complex, and all we've done is confuse people. So simplify it. I have a rule where no more than 4 or 5 slides. Whenever I'm saying to the board, no more than 4 to 5 slides, no more than 4 to 5 bullets per slide, and make the narrative count. Tell a story. Find a story that will engage them, get them interested, and give them a level of understanding for what you're trying to do and what your vision.
And what type of data breaches or exploits do you worry about most? What keeps you up at night?
So we're a little different. We are 100% SaaS. So we don't run applications in a data center. We don't have that. So what I like to say is ransomware is probably not as big a deal for us as maybe some other companies that do that, but that doesn't mean we eliminated the risk. We moved it. So we took it from there and moved it into TPRM and third-party risk, because now, the good thing is our data is everywhere. So that's harder. The bad thing is our data is everywhere. So, I have more opportunities to have an issue, but they're probably individually could be smaller, but in total could be greater. So it's a different dynamic than normal, but third-party risk just that keeps me up at night. And because of that, they made it report to me.
And what do you think is the number one rule for data loss prevention?
We are pretty strict on it. We do not allow no cloud storage, nothing. You cannot get to Dropbox, Google Drive, none of that's allowed. We block it all. We do allow personal email, but you can't do attachments or anything. So we do those things just in general to say unmonitored ability to get data outside of it, it's a no-go. Just no way. Where it gets fun is corporate email, because our job is PII. Trying to differentiate between good PII going out the door and bad PII going out the door is really difficult. We've had a lot of conversations. I've talked to other banks. We all have kind of the same problem, but I'm very curious to see some of the things that Microsoft's coming out from an AI perspective, to see how that can work to put some of what what your brain can think of versus what a machine can think of into, reality.
Yeah. And what are some tools that you use to help kind of keep your institute secure?
So we'll get back to the data. So we actually use your product. I mean, we own a lot of Varonis. We use it extensively to keep track of where we sit with where our data is. And we've had multiple times where we've had some people go out and, do some things, and we get alerts and we're like, what are you doing? Especially when people leave. The other one we're really looking forward to using is we just signed up to use your SaaS product. So the ability to run scans over data sitting, inside of Exchange is going to be massive for us, because we really want to cut our retention period down significantly. And another way you could do that is to give people insight as to what they've got saved in there, because way too many people today use Exchange and use email as a document repository, and that becomes a real problem. The ability to go in there and scan it and tell them what they have and let them clean it up is game changer for us to get retention levels down.
What do you predict to be the biggest shift in cybersecurity?
I think a big part of it is getting away from the technical piece and bringing more of a business sense into it. A lot of the people I talked to today, and I have to give credit to where credit is due. A guy here in town named Jim Desmond, who's over at Asurion, said to me one time, if you're not a good storyteller, you can't be successful in this job anymore, because you have got to simplify the message and be able to put the message in business terms or in some type of terms that the C-suite can understand. Otherwise, you're never going to get buy-in. If you don't get buy-in, you don't get resources. So that's got to change. And then I really think the whole AI thing is going to be interesting. Where it's going to go and how you can use it securely within your environment. There's some things we really want to look at. But I mean, I started playing with it over Christmas. It is fascinating the things you can do with it. But how do you do it and keep your corporate data within your own realm? That's the fun part.
You kind of touched on this a little bit with your mention of you have to be a good storyteller. But what other skills make security professionals great at what they do?
Compromise. Because remember, everything we do is a risk conversation. So how do you have those discussions with other business leaders? And when do you know when and to what level to compromise? Okay. Because you're going to have to at some point. Don't get me wrong. There are certain things where I will lay it down and go, okay, if you really want to do that, you need to go all the way up the ladder, put it in writing because I'm not agreeing to it. But most of the time it's more of a, okay, let's sit down and understand what the real risk is. And then having a true risk conversation with compromise and discussion on both sides, and the ability to have those conversations and have them be constructive is incredibly important. It's a big part of what this job is. It's a people job. This job is a people job.
And you've been in this job, in this industry for 2 decades.
Let's be real careful how many years we talk about.
But if you weren't in cybersecurity, what would you be doing?
So my daughter's in law school. I would have loved to have been a lawyer. We get into some fun conversations, and it's kind of like, she's like, you actually get this stuff. And it's like, wait, do you understand what I do for a living? I spend my whole day with lawyers. So I think that would be a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to what some of the stuff that she's going to get into and that she's going to do to hear how that happens. So I'd probably be over in that area. I think it's fascinating.
That's nice. Well, thank you so much for joining me on Speed Data today, Mark.
I appreciate it.
If our audience has any questions you'd like me to ask during a future episode of Speed Data, please email me at pr@varonis.com. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you.